I just ate a carnivore diet for 3 months. Meat, salt, and water. 0 carbs, 0 sugar, 0 fiber. Now, I did not do this to improve my running. I did this for my health. But my running, shockingly, did not get worse. In fact, it got better. A lot better. See, I've had issues with my digestion since I was a teenager. I was on Prevacid, which is a proton pump inhibitor, greatly reduces your stomach acid, for about 8 years. Since then, I've struggled with chronic yeast overgrowth, general digestive issues, acid reflux, gastritis, esophagitis, even a small benign mucosal mass in my stomach. So this wasn't just some experiment, there's a lot on the line. Over the past 10 years, I've tried everything. Low carb, high carb, gluten-free, elimination diets, supplements, medications, protocols. I've seen doctors, taken tests, taken meds, nothing ever really fixed it. So last year I went back on Prevacid, and yeah, it helps with the symptoms. When acid reflux is really bad, Prevacid's a godsend. But looking back now, I know it's just a band-aid. It doesn't actually fix the root cause. It just puts a band-aid over the symptoms. And that brings us to running. I've been trying to make a running comeback for about 4 years now. Every time I try to build the slightest bit of mileage, like I'm not even talking about a lot, just build it up a tiny bit, I get a calf tear. Always the calves. They're my Achilles heel, but I have problems with those too. And I've tried everything. Strength work, rehab, different shoes. Nothing at all worked until I noticed a pattern. Every time my overall health and my digestive health improved, my calves improved a little bit too. I figured this couldn't be a coincidence. So I started wondering, maybe this isn't really a training problem at all. Maybe it's not a strengthening problem. Maybe it's all internal. It's not mechanical, it's biological. So instead of adding more things in, I tried to take more things out, eliminate, which carnivore is the ultimate elimination diet. That's why I decided I wanted to dive all in. So when it comes to carnivore, there's multiple ways of doing it. Some people are more loose with it. They'll do, fish, eggs, chicken. As long as it's animal based, then that counts as carnivore. But I tried to keep it strict, pretty much red meat exclusive. So the only issue with me is meat is fucking expensive. Like ribeye, $21.44 a pound. I love ribeyes, but come on, man, that adds up. I was eating like 3+ pounds of meat a day on a lot of this. So what I would do is I would utilize a couple cheaper cuts. One is like chuck steaks or big like flank steaks, which, god man, those were running like under $5 a pound, and now they're closing in on like $9 a pound. Those have already gone up so much. And then the other one is ground beef, fatty as possible, and as much of it as possible to make it as cheap as possible. And when I say just meat, I mean just meat. No side salad, no veggies, no fruit, nothing but meat. So the first few days were interesting. After right about 48 hours or so, I think that's typically how long it takes to burn the rest of your glucose stores, I started to feel extremely weak, super low energy, just crazy fatigued, irritable. I was extremely thirsty, like the type of thirst that no amount of water or electrolytes can quench. I would just drink water all day, fill up on electrolytes, and still my pee would be, it was like this real deep yellow, one of those, like that type of color that makes you think, I need to go to the hospital, or at minimum, I'm doing something horribly wrong here. And then poop, we gotta talk about poop. I don't like talking about it, but it's relevant here. Pretty much the first 5 to 7 days, pretty much just straight diarrhea. It was not good. I don't like talking about that. I don't like saying that, but it was pretty gnarly. It did even out after that. After about a week, it leveled out to the point where I was having like maybe almost surprisingly reasonably normal bowel movements. Not frequently enough, for sure, we'll talk about that, but relatively normal. There you go. Okay, let's go. This way. The first few days, I didn't even attempt to run. I knew it wasn't gonna be worth it. On like day 5 or 6, I went for a trail run with Abby, just like I am right now. We got to the first hill. I already felt pretty sluggish. We got to the first hill to climb, and it wasn't that I couldn't run up it fast. It wasn't that I felt like I needed to walk up it. It was that I felt like I couldn't get up it, straight up. It was a very bizarre feeling, not just of not being in shape, not just of, oh, it's hot out, so I'm gonna have to go slower up this hill. It was like, I can't run up this hill. I was like laughing to myself at how preposterous it was. But I'll tell you what, we came out and did the same exact run roughly a week later, so about 2 weeks into carnivore. And I'm not gonna say I was running fast, but I was able to run. I was able to do it just fine. Ran up those hills, maybe not powered up the hill, but ran up it just fine. We finished, I think we did like 7 or 8 miles that day, and I felt like I wanted to keep going. It was such a crazy transition. So I was running slow as hell, but I was running. A month in, man, I thought I had it figured out. I thought I had cracked the code. Things were moving in such an incredibly positive direction. My HRV was going way up. My HRV typically was like 20 to 40 max. Now I was hitting up the 70s at night. Resting heart rate was going down. Usually I've never tested my resting heart rate below 50. I was getting like 47, 48 overnight. Chronic calf problems were pretty much disappearing. Before all this, I would wake up with stiff calves and like lower legs, Achilles tendons every single morning, and pretty much most of every run, or at least the first mile or two, they were super stiff and felt like they were just on that verge of injury. That was just gone, wiped out, completely eradicated. Like, it was unbelievable. I really thought I had finally cracked the code. But it didn't last. Around that 4 to 6 week mark, things started to come back down from that high. My HRV slowly came back down to normal, and resting heart rate went right back up. I still ran. Really, I ran a lot. Way more than I have in years. I even got some 50-plus mile weeks. So it's not like I totally crashed out, but the decline was obvious. By the end of month 3, I knew things had to change. So before I talk about what I'm doing moving forward, let's recap a little bit of like the good and the bad. We're going to call this the adventures of Meat Man. Sinead and I used to go to Chipotle a lot, and we would, to like mess with each other, we would do like the online order, and to mess with each other, whoever ordered it would like write some sort of funny or disparaging name for the other person, like that they put on their order. And one time she wrote for mine, she wrote man meat. And so the Chipotle workers, this is so funny, I'll put the picture up on the video, they wrote out like the adventures of Meat Man with this little guy on there. So Sinead recreated it for this. So the good, first thing is definitely injury improvements. The calf improvements, I really can't like overstate this. It was such a tremendous difference. In 2024, I averaged roughly 20 miles a week, mostly because of my calves. I could not keep them healthy. I had multiple weeks on carnivore where I was over 50 miles a week. Like, that's such a massive difference that I really can't overstate how huge it was. I used to have a big problem I've had for many, many years now is just chronically stiff calves and Achilles tendons as soon as I get out of bed. Just every single morning, even if I haven't trained in a month, even if I haven't run for months, it doesn't really matter. It seems to be that way. Carnivore definitely improved that dramatically. So that was definitely the number one good thing that came out of this. Second thing is yeast symptoms. So I've struggled with various issues with yeast for a long time now. And it's not that carnivore completely obliterated it. Like, it wasn't totally gone, but it was reduced pretty substantially. That was definitely a big benefit. However, you know, and I'll talk about this in a second, it didn't last. Number 3, simplicity. I really think the simplicity of the carnivore diet was something that I personally really enjoyed. A lot of people hate it, but it's something I definitely enjoyed. In terms of just general diet, I actually liked how, you know, you're hungry, you fire up the grill, you make a steak. That's it. I kind of actually enjoy that simplicity. Sinead makes fun of me for mono meals all the time, that I actually enjoy eating mono meals. I like eating very simple foods. So I liked that aspect. Yeah, it gets difficult socially sometimes, and it does get a little bit boring sometimes, but in general, I liked the simplicity of it. Running nutrition, the simplicity of running nutrition was awesome. I loved how I could just go for, you know, an hour and a half plus run and just not worry at all about fueling during, really about fueling before. I would do most of my running fasted. In fact, all of the running, pretty much, I did fasted. So I liked that simplicity. I liked being able to just, you're hungry, you know exactly what you're going to eat. Your grocery list isn't very long. Everything's just very simple. And then running nutrition-wise, I really liked just the simplicity of not worrying about fueling, not worrying about taking in X amount of carbs, whatever, per mile. I liked the simplicity of it. Oh, and just to mention, I've had a lot of blood sugar problems for many, many years now. Back when I was in college on runs, oftentimes, I would swing back by the apartment because my blood sugar would be crashing, and I'd just crush like potato chips or something crappy just to like fuel the rest of the run. So that was something I enjoyed too, was very stable. I never felt like I was crashing on runs like I have before. But of course, running longer is not just the only goal. Really, I want to run faster. And so that kind of takes us into the bad. Running fast. So I want to start off by saying something that I've seen people say when they eat like lower carb or carnivore diets that are endurance athletes. I see people say they can't do anything fast at all. Like they can't do anything above like a zone 2 heart rate. I didn't experience that. I didn't necessarily have that feeling of like I can only go slow for a long time. I was able to push the pace sometimes. I was able to do some strides. I was able to do like some hills. So it's not that I couldn't do any intensity at all. But I definitely felt like there was a cap. I definitely felt like there was a cap, and I definitely in general felt a little bit sluggish. So to give you an example, I did this workout kind of towards the tail end of my carnivore experiment where it was 25 by 400, very classic like Ingebrigtsen Norwegian style workout, 25 by 400 with a minute rest. I did it on the track, and I was doing them about 6-minute pace down to like maybe 5:40 pace. That's not very fast. I think I could run a half marathon at that pace right now, no problem. And yet it felt like I was capped there. Like I finished number 25. I felt like I could have done 5 to 10 more, but I just couldn't really go that much faster. So I wasn't running that hard, but I also couldn't really push all that much faster. So I think that fast running in general was definitely something that was a huge limitation of this. And the thing is that this is kind of difficult at this point in my running journey because I've taken so much time off of running or had so much time where I've just run very minimally that any running is good. Like I don't care how slow it is, any running for me, any aerobic development for most people, but definitely for me is good. So as much as I struggled with the faster running, carnivore ultimately, in a way, kind of at the time I did it, was kind of good for me from an aerobic development perspective just because I was actually running. All right, here it is. Got to talk about poop. So I put this definitely under the bad column because, as I mentioned earlier, the first week was pretty much just diarrhea. Like it was bad. No holds barred there. It was really bad. After that, it did kind of surprisingly normalize. Like it really wasn't that crazy abnormal, but it definitely wasn't frequent enough. I would have an entire day where I didn't have a single bowel movement. That's not good. That's not healthy. I would have some trips to the toilet where it was great. Everything was fine. Other ones where it was just very unsatisfying is probably the best way I can describe it. So, I know this one's very obvious when you're eating a no fiber diet, but poop was definitely not great. Third one under the bad column is dry red eyes. That was something I really, really struggled with on carnivore. I've struggled with dry eyes for a long time, like kind of as far back as I can remember. I've worn contacts forever, and I know a lot of people have issues with contacts. Like at the end of the day, they're really ready to take them out. For me, it'll be like halfway through the day. I'm just like dying to take them out. That's been the case for a long time. On carnivore, it's like it got like ramped up to the max. Not only were my eyes so dry that often I wanted to take my contacts out after like an hour or two. It was bad. My eyes, especially this left one, started to get really, really red. That's a bad indicator of like your liver health, your kidneys, a lot of different things. That's not good. So firmly putting this one, I would almost put this one at the top just because it was so bad. But definitely firmly in the bad column is my eye health. The last thing is that all of the benefits, so pretty much everything in this good column, anything good that I've talked about that came of it, they really were temporary. Like I feel like the first 6 to maybe 8 weeks thereabouts, that was when I had most of the benefits. Like that was when everything was going really well. After that point, it really just kind of, I don't know, it kind of leveled, it plateaued and then just kind of leveled off to the point where I wouldn't say it was like back to totally square one towards the end of the carnivore experiment, but it was definitely not as good as it was at its peak. So I wonder, there's a lot of theories there as to what exactly causes that, whether it's the elimination or some sort of like immune activation. I'm not really sure, but nonetheless, the benefits were temporary. They didn't last. So alas, cut it off at 3 months. And that brings us here. Moving forward, obviously I've stopped carnivore. I've actually been off it for multiple months now. Kind of took me a while to get this video out. You may have noticed my hair was a little longer here at the end than it was at parts of the video. I would say, reflecting on carnivore now, I think that at best, if it's worth anything at all, it's best used as a tool and it's best used for incredibly serious situations. I mean, for example, I know that I think it was discovered, like any utility of the carnivore diet was discovered because of its use with seizures. So it may be in really serious cases, but I think it puts you in a hole. I think that's what happened to me, is that the first 6 to 8 weeks, it was like, fantastic. This is great. I'm getting better. This is amazing. And yet after that, I think I just got put in a hole. I mentioned earlier, like the eye issues. Ultimately, I think I more or less developed fatty liver. I mean, that's something I've kind of struggled with a little bit before, but I think that just got exacerbated, just that insanely high amount of fat, because you got to eat carbs or you got to eat fats, or a combination of both. You have to. So as one goes down, the other necessarily, just from an energy perspective, has to go up. So I was eating obscene amounts of fat that I think I just couldn't process very well. And eventually I think the liver just does not process that well. For me, in my case, anyway, maybe, I don't know, maybe it seems to work for other people. There are people that are reporting, at least self-reporting, that they've been on carnivore for years and that they're doing really well. Whatever though, it didn't work for me. Now I've added, carbs back in, I've added fiber back in. I'm actually keeping fat a lot lower. And I'll tell you what, at first, it was a pretty brutal transition. Like, I was having the calf and Achilles problems came right back. You know, just general major fluctuations in energy were pretty bad at first. It's taken some time to kind of like for things to normalize a little bit better, but now I feel way better, like 100 times better than even I was even at the peak of carnivore. The peak of carnivore was like, there was a uniquely low level of inflammation, which was nice, but like, I really think that's an insulin thing. I know I'm kind of going all over the place over here. My thoughts are, I have a lot of thoughts on this, on the carnivore diet, and especially for myself, but I think that the carnivore diet keeps insulin low. I really think that's ultimately what it is. It keeps insulin low, which in the short term can be a really good thing. It drastically lowers inflammation. Chronically elevated insulin causes huge amounts of inflammation. This is well known. You go from that, but you kind of like fat out your liver and make it to where you can't process it as well. You add a bunch of carbs back in, guess what? You're gonna get a lot of inflammation because you're insulin resistant. You weren't eating any carbs before, so it didn't show up, it didn't matter. But now all of a sudden you start eating carbs and you're insulin resistant. Ultimately, I think that was kind of the benefit of it, but for me, there's gotta be a better way. I think I've discovered that, but you know, TBD. Anyway, so now I'm off the carnivore diet. I'm definitely never gonna do it again. I do feel like I learned a lot though, and definitely any of you watching, if you've ever experimented with the carnivore diet or a super low carb diet, especially as it pertains to running, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts, because there's a lot of talk, there's a lot of chatter on this stuff, man. There's a lot of people saying that it's doing a lot of good for them. So I think it's at least worth having a discussion over. So I'd love to hear your comments. If you just want to call me a moron for thinking that not eating carbs, not eating fiber was a good idea, feel free to do so. I get it. Thanks for watching.